World's Strongest Man have announced the events for this year's contest. It's a basic looking list, so I want to try and decipher what we can expect at this year's World's Strongest Man with the events for the qualifying heats and for the final. If you haven't seen it already, we've already done a list of athletes competing, which you can see if you check up around here somewhere.
And while we don't know the groups yet, the dividing of the groups is always quite a hot topic for discussion and online debate, isn't it? So we thought it'd be fun to put together a video of how we think the group should be split using this year's athletes, and you can watch that here.
We just wanted to help the organisers, didn't we?
Well, you know, we're helpful people.
Anyway, we're going to get to the events for this contest. They've been announced. Let's take a look at the events starting with the qualifying heats. Now, from what I understand, this is going to be a two-part event where they're going to start off with a frame carry. I'm not 100% sure on the weight, but I'm going to guess somewhere between 340 kilos to 360. Then they're going to be loading some implements, various different types of implements, just like a normal loading event. But it's going to be split into two ways. So you're going to have the frame carry first, then into the loading events. Good event for a number of guys that will be competing.
It's interesting though as well, because some of the guys that are great at loading aren't necessarily best, you know, renowned for grip strength. Tom Stoltman would be a great example of that, I think, in a straight out loading medley.
I'll tell you what though, if you think back to last year's World's Strongest Man and Tom on the Farmer's Walk, he was really
very
good.
True, yeah.
Tom's grip's a funny one because I watch him do some things and he's absolutely great. And then other things he's not so good. I don't know that his grip is weak. I think sometimes with Tom it's just a bit of a mental thing on certain events, and I think he's been improving it and working hard on it, so could be a great start for the big Scotsman.
Yeah, definitely. So the squat lift then is going to be done exactly the same as it was last year, on an axle bar with the globes at the end down to, it's like a platform, isn't it? They've padded it now.
They've padded it now. Every athlete gets measured out for depth in the yard beforehand, so it's all adjustable.
Yeah.
They've got the pads which stop that sort of bouncing of the weight.
It used to clang something terrible, didn't it?
You used to see a lot of injuries on it because it would throw people side to side. But exactly what we saw last year with the squat. Axle squat for reps. Lots of good squatters going to World's Strongest Man. It's a tough event to have in the heats because when you've got to push the squat to failure, that can take a lot out of you. So a lot of the guys will be trying to play tactics, see if they can get away with doing less than they'd like to.
Yeah.
So next up we've got the deadlift for reps. Pretty much like we see at World's Strongest Man. It's going to be on a similar to as normal bar as possible, I think. Weight's going to be around 340 to 350 kilos. As many reps as you can do in most likely 60 seconds.
So I think this one is going to please a lot of fans because I see a lot of comments, people saying, bring back Fingal's fingers.
It's been a long time.
And they are back. So how heavy is like the lightest and heaviest finger?
I think it goes from like 200 to about 300 kilos. But everyone gets longer and that weight then goes over you more and more and it gets harder and harder. Obviously the fifth finger is pretty tough. And we haven't seen the fingers at World's Strongest Man, I believe, since 2009.
I think you're right, because they did the Norse hammer in 2015, but
which was a mess up.
we don't like to talk about that.
We don't like to talk about it. But the fingers is a great event.
Yes.
Visually really pleasing. It's just big, huge objects. Guys are trying to flip them over. And, you know, it is an event that suits the taller guys.
Yes.
So the likes of, I mean, Brian Shaw was unbelievable at this. I'm sure big Tom Stoltman will be looking forward to trying it.
We've never been able to see someone like Tom do this.
We
because
haven't.
It's been such a long time. Gav Bilton, maybe.
Gav Bilton. He's perfectly built for this type of event. So it's going to be an interesting one. That being said, you know, Mariusz Pudzianowski was never great at this. Then he went and trained it, got really good and smashed it one year. So I don't expect it to be a weak event for Novikov. No. I'm sure he's going to be practicing and bringing in his best performance. But it's good to see the fingers back, something different that we haven't seen for a number of years. And talking of different, we've got a vehicle pull, but with a difference, the train pull. And again, this is something we have not seen for a long, long time. I've only ever done one train pull in my whole career, back at Britain's Strongest Man.
2008?
Yeah, I think it's as far back as that. I've seen the train pull at World's Strongest Man a couple of times, especially in some of the African countries. But train pull this year is going to be a great... Train is just visually so cool. And the hard thing with a train is getting it going. The start is really heavy. Actually, once it gets going, it starts to move quite well.
So it's a track, isn't it? And it's almost like climbing a ladder.
Normally, they're allowed to, normally there's a ladder that they use rather than a rope. Yes. I'm not saying that will be the case this year. It could well be a rope. But in past years when I've seen a train, it's normally with a ladder attached to the floor. So that could be a really cool event to watch.
So next then is the overhead medley. And that, we believe, is going to consist of 2 dumbbells, 1 circus barbell, and then finally an axle press to finish.
Yeah, so there's going to be 2 dumbbells, but 1 at a time.
Yes.
So it's just going to be the normal one-handed. They're not going to have to clean both at the same time. 2 dumbbells getting a little bit heavier. The circus barbell is basically a normal bar, but with the globes on the side, so it gets quite a lot of flex in it, and then an axle. And weight-wise, we're looking at dumbbells between 95 to 110 kilos. The axle is around 163 kilos. I think that's what the axle weighs on its own without weight attached to it. So I think that's what they're going to be doing. And then the circus barbell, they're saying between 160 and 175 kilos. So 4 implements, overhead, fastest time wins. The forward hold. Between 25 and 30 kilos. Hold it out in front of you for as long as possible. It's excruciatingly painful. The athletes need to cheat as much as they can, get away with everything that they can until the referee tells you to put it down. Uncle Oz's advice there.
There you go. So lastly is my favourite event.
She's so happy.
I think it's going to be a stone over a bar, isn't it? And it's going to be a rising weight. So I think the first stone is going to weigh 140 kilos, with the very last stone weighing 210 kilos. We're not 100% sure. I'm guessing whoever, fails the stone first is disqualified.
Yeah, from brief conversations I've had with people about it, what I think is happening is the 140 stone, one guy will lift it over, the other guy has to match it. Then they move up to the next stone, lift it over, match it, until someone can't lift the stone. If they both get to the 210 stone, then it will come down to the most reps on the 210 stone.
Oh, that's rough.
It is rough, but I think it's better than like a 160 for reps.
I guess, where they could almost go all day, can't they?
I mean, when you think when Belsac did like 22 reps or something.
And then didn't get through.
When you have to do that many reps, you're just screwed.
Yeah.
Whereas no one's going to get 22 reps on a 210 stone.
No.
It's gonna show some interesting battles. Also, it takes the speed element out of it. It's just about who's the strongest at lifting stones, which I think is a better way to test to get to the final.
If we have to use stones.
Yeah, I mean, the best way is we don't have it. But I get it from a if you're a hardcore fan, you probably don't like it.
Yeah.
And I'm a hardcore fan, but I understand the element of visual competition. Sometimes you get the groups that almost qualify too easily. There's no battle or excitement at the end.
I understand and I get that. What I would like to see is not the emphasis to always be on stones. Change that event every single year.
I totally agree.
So it's not always stones.
Yeah, I agree with you there. You could have a different event as the deciding event, but it's stones again. It's what we've got. We'll find out exactly what the rules are the closer we get to it, but that's kind of what I'm expecting to see in the group stages. How are they going to split these up into fair groups? I think it's going to be, everyone will do the loading medley. I think some groups will squat, some groups will deadlift. Yeah. I think some groups will do fingers, some groups will do the train pull. I think every group is doing the overhead medley, and every group is doing the axe hold. And then obviously it will come down to the stone off to decide the extra. So I think after the 5 events, the leader of the group will go through to the final. Yeah. And then second and third place will go into a battle. I could be wrong then. They might do more than second and third place. We just don't know until they announce the official rules. Should we have a quick look into the final?
Yes.
So the first event of the final is the Giants Medley, which I would have loved.
Yes.
It's a yoke into a frame carry, 2 of my best events. I think this is a great way to start a competition. Not being biased at all, but I do. And I think the weight selection is pretty good. So they're looking at between 450 and 485 for the yoke, and about 340 to 370 on the frame. Good weights, not crazy weights. I think you've got to understand these guys have got a lot of events to get through. You're not trying to kill them. No. We want to see a good challenge, and the combination of those 2 events will get pretty tough towards the end. Definitely. I think probably 20 metres or so on each event.
Who's this event going to favour?
Oh, it's an interesting one, because I'd say Bish could do very, very well. His grip's really improved. He's always been quick at the yoke.
I think Tom can do very well here.
Tom's great at yoke, and if he can show the improvements he used on the farmers, I think Novikov will be quick. I think Brian Shaw could be very good at this.
Brian needs to work on his transition between the two, and then he could be very quick.
Yeah, Brian's always fast at moving.
Yeah.
He's sometimes a bit too methodical at the transition, and against the guys like Novikov, Bish,
they're just like a ball.
I'll tell you who's improved on this as well. He didn't used to be that good, but JF Caron. He's been getting better at this type of thing. Also, if he's really in shape, Janasha is good at these type of events. There's a number of guys. I mean, I'd say the best guy in the world is not competing.
Yeah,
I'm glad you said that because I thought you were going to say me. But,
maybe a few years ago
I've happily given that mantle to.
Torch.
He is without question the best.
I would agree.
At that type of event. But also Evan Singleton, really good at these type of events. So interesting one to start the competition off.
So event number 2, I'm quite excited about. It feels
something new.
Something new. For so many years, it feels like the same set of events. Titan's turntable. So this, from our understanding, is going to be very much like the Wheel of Pain that they did at the Arnold. So it's a pushing event, a huge heavy implement round in a circle on its axis. So that's exciting, isn't it?
It's going to be good to see something different. Now, and again, hard to pick a winner on.
Yeah, very. Is body weight a big factor in this? Does this suit the heavier guys?
Normally you'd say yes, but when you look at the Arnolds and you see who's been performing kind of well, it's not always the case.
Yeah.
So, body weight, if you can move with that body weight, is always a big advantage. But as we saw last year, it's not always the biggest guy that wins. So
sometimes it's more about fitness and endurance.
Yeah, and I think new event for a lot of them.
I'm excited to see this.
It's going to be a big one, and if people that you don't expect could suddenly do really well. It's a hard one for me to pick in terms of placements,
especially when obviously we don't know who's going to make the final because we don't know what the groups look like. So
exactly,
it's all very exciting.
So event number 3 is the Rain Keg Toss, and this time it's about maximum height. So it's only a 15 kilo keg. Say only 15 kilos. That's still pretty heavy when you start throwing it. If anyone's watched our video of this,
I have thrown 26 kilos. I would like to point out.
Did you throw it, or did it just sort of trickle over your head?
It threw me.
But the 15 kilos is going to be for height.
Yes.
So the guys are going to throw it over the bar. If they get it over, the height goes up. In past years, someone like Thor, unbelievable at throwing events, and also throwing events for height at the Arnolds. No Thor here. Brian is an exceptionally good thrower. I think Tom Stoltman is an exceptionally good thrower. And I think the fact that this time you don't have to rush and get all the implements over. It's not about time. It's just about height. I think those two are the favourite for this event.
You know who's a good thrower as well? Graham Hicks. He was very impressive when we were
Graham is great, but he doesn't have the height of those two. Now, I don't care what you say. If you're a foot taller than someone and you're both the same kind of power, and
the taller guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm an okay thrower. I was kind of keeping up with Hicksy. I wouldn't keep up with Brian.
No,
but it's another level.
It's such a technical movement that it might come down to who can keep the coolest head. And that's why I think we shouldn't discount Novikov out of this one.
Novikov, you can't count him out, but I don't see him winning this event. And honestly, I think when you talk about keeping the cooler head, it's more important on the speed.
Yes.
With this, they can miss and they still get another go.
Oh, okay.
So it's not about just one go. They get either 2 or 3 attempts.
Okay.
So with that as the rules, it's really going to favour the best thrower.
I'm still going to put him in my top 3 for that event. I know we're not there yet.
We're not doing predictions today.
No,
we're just talking about events. But it's going to be, it's a great thing. You know, we haven't seen weight for height for a long time at World's Strongest Man. So you could have someone, Graham Hicks might come and surprise me and beat them all.
And shut you up.
Yeah.
I'll be like, Team Hicks.
You know I love Hicksy, but I'm just
clearly not
telling
as much as me.
Telling it how it is. Event number 4 in the final is
the max log lift. Now, we haven't seen a max log lift at World's Strongest Man for some time, have we? And this excites me because we've had different, so obviously Clash on the Coast, they had American Log Lift Championships. We've seen the Wuss feats of strength, a couple of guys going for it, but it's been a long time since we've seen the top sort of pool of athletes go for a max log. And I really, really hope Luke Stoltman and Graham Hicks can get into the final. And Bobby Thompson obviously also just did amazing things at Clash on the Coaster, breaking the American log lift record. So I'm quite excited. You can feel my legs are like swinging. I'm like a child.
Yeah. So who do you think will win this event? And do you think there'll be a world record?
No. I don't think there'll be a world record at World's Strongest Man just because of everything they've had to do to get to this point.
It would be the 10th event by this point. There ain't going to be no world record.
And it's California, it's sunny, they're going to be outside. There's going to be so many factors that make that sort of thing really difficult. I think if he's in the final, I think Graham Hicks wins this event. Sorry, Luke, I love you so much. Luke in second.
Well, we'll see who gets to the final before I make any predictions.
Okay.
But
you made me make a prediction.
Just like making you feel uncomfortable.
I love it.
But yeah, there's going to be a lot of good log lifting. I mean, last year when you looked at the log, the performances in the final weren't great.
No, Tom Stoltman
winning the log. I mean, Tom's improved his log.
He has, yeah.
Not quite up to Luke's level, but he's still, looking strong. But log for max is different to a medley.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to who's the strongest. Like I said, in the heats, you've got the overhead medley. I could see Novikov winning that event. Mm-hmm. I don't see Novikov winning the max log.
No, and it's going to hurt people that I love, like JF Karan, the couple of guys
he's going to have to pull it out the bag and perform. That's what it's all about on the day.
Okay.
This is what's great about Strongman. We can sit here, we can predict, we can say what we think is going to happen, but until they're out there on the battlefield, we don't know. And that's the exciting thing with Strongman, with sport, with everything. The build-up is fun, but if we knew exactly what was going to happen, it would be boring.
Okay.
Event number 5 is the Knack Deadlift. Now, Knack is one of the sponsors. They're a tool company. It's a deadlift for rep event. Not 100% sure on the height, whether it's going to be standard height or a little bit higher. It's going to be
elevated, but we just don't know.
I think it will be a little bit higher.
15 or 18, yeah.
Yeah, I think if it is higher than a standard deadlift, again, it suits Novikov, gives him a good advantage. But there's always so many great deadlifters at World's Strongest Man. To be quite honest, if you're not a good deadlifter at World's Strongest Man these days, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
It's, gone are the days where you can come last on an event at Worlds and still win. You need to be consistently placing high. If you place lower than 5th or 6th on one event,
it's going to be
you're going to start struggling. But yeah, I'm going to wait and see what weight it is, what kind of height it's from, before I make any outlandish claims. But a deadlift for reps, I've heard it's going to be a little bit different to what we've seen in the past. I'm not sure on weight, not sure on height. Once we know, we'll let you guys know.
We just know it's a deadlift.
And then the final event, Elizabeth, tell them what's happening.
Drum roll. Let's guess. It's the Atlas stones. I don't mind these Atlas stones. That's fine. It's the decider I don't like. A standard set of stones, I'm guessing, is what they're using. Do we know the weights?
I guess 140 up to 210. 210 is their heaviest stone. So,
okay.
World's Strongest Man. So I'm going to guess that'll be the last stone. And bear in mind, at this point, they've already done 11 events previous. That's more than heavy enough to finish off a competition. They'll be pretty battered, mentally and physically. World's Strongest Man is a very long, draining competition. At the moment, they don't know if they can take team, coaches, partners, things like that. It's looking
very unlikely for anyone travelling from Europe.
Yeah, so it's always tough to be at World's Strongest Man on your own. There's so much waiting around, and that can, just as much as the physical side, the mental side becomes take a toll. So by that point, believe me, a 210 Atlas stone is more than heavy enough, and the best man is going to be decided on the day. We will do a prediction video once we know more.
Once we know the groups.
Yeah, once we know the groups, we'll give more detail into who we think can do well on each event. We just wanted to make sure you guys had a good understanding of what the events were. Let us know your thoughts, comment below. Ask myself, ask Auntie Liz what she thinks.
I know nothing.
She knows more than me, clearly. Anyway, guys, we'll be back with more strength action soon. While you're here, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of my awesome strength content.